Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez may have to appear in court over blocking people on Twitter. From Newsbusters, judge demands AOC appear in court over this issue. Now, here's the thing. A bunch of leftists, a bunch of, lefty resistance types sued Donald Trump for blocking them. And guess what? They won. And I believe they won an appeal, too. Trump is not allowed to block people, but precedent was set. The courts ruled public officials, even on personal accounts, cannot block people. But Ocasio-Cortez didn't get the memo. Actually, she did. And she's really avoiding the issue because she blocks a ton of people. Well, too bad. Unblock them. Play by the rules you helped create. Well, she refused. She refused to unblock people. Now, there's a couple people of prominence who are suing her. Notably, it's this guy, what's his name? Hiskins. He's a Democrat. And Joey Salads, who's running for Congress in Staten Island. He's also a YouTuber. It's a Democrat and a Republican. She claims, but they're harassing me. They have no right. So you're saying Trump should be allowed to block people? The Knight Foundation First Amendment Institute, or something like that. The Knight First Amendment Foundation. I don't know what it's called. It's a journalism and First Amendment organization. Called on her to unblock people. She refused. Well, now the courts are saying they want her to explain why she's defying the law. Let's read. When a federal judge declared that Trump, as a politician, could not block his Twitter followers, the ruling applied to other politicians as well. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is being sued by former Brooklyn Assemblyman Dov Hikind, that's what it is, for blocking him on Twitter. After Cortez tried to get the case dismissed, a judge demanded on September 27th that she appear in court to explain why she blocked Hikind and 19 other individuals. Now, one of the people she blocked is Joey Salads. I reached out for comment, and he just said something to the effect that he was glad it's being taken seriously. He's glad the suit isn't being dismissed. Well, you don't get special privileges. The law is the law. If Trump can't do it, neither can you. You're not special. But she's refusing to obey the law in violation of the First Amendment. So yeah, maybe she should show up in court and explain to a judge why she's violating law. Cortez's aide explained in court that the congresswoman blocked people if their commentary was not constructive. Define constructive. This was not enough for Brooklyn Judge Frederick Block. What a convenient name. Is that really his name? He demanded that Ocasio-Cortez come to court herself to explain her reason for blocking people. A tweet from Ocasio-Cortez in August offered an explanation. Harassment. She tweeted, "Harassment is not a viewpoint. No one is entitled to abuse." This was in response to a letter from the Columbia Knight First Amendment Institute, there you go, which asked why Ocasio-Cortez was blocking people on Twitter in the first place. Democrat Dov Hikind took issue with Ocasio-Cortez's approach to describing immigration law enforcement. He tweeted at her in June about her comparison of migrant centers to concentration camps. Hikind describes himself on Twitter as a proud Jewish American and a staunch supporter of Israel. Ocasio-Cortez blocked him. He tweeted on September 26, looking forward to seeing her in court. Now, here's my question. Where's left? I appreciate the Columbia Knight First Amendment Institute coming out, calling her out, but where is everyone else? All of the people who danced around laughing that they defeated Trump in court. Why aren't you talking about Cortez? I cannot stand politics. It is such obvious deceit, manipulation for political power. They didn't sue Trump because they wanted to engage in conversation. They did it to push him back and gain power. And the proof is they won't come out and say the same thing about Cortez. I'm not talking about the Columbia Knight First Amendment people. They have. That's great. But they're a First Amendment institute. They're not Democrats. They're not resistant. They're not anti-Trump. Where is the high-profile article? Where's NBC, BuzzFeed, Vox, The Verge? Where's their article saying Ocasio-Cortez is breaking the law and needs to stop? Okay, look, maybe they've written some stuff. The point is, it's not the big news. It's right-leaning outlets. It's media critics. It's conservative outlets that are highlighting this. They won against Trump, and then they zipped their mouths shut when Ocasio-Cortez entered the crosshairs. Rules for me, rules for thee, but not for me. It's the motto they're playing by. They go on to say, according to the New York Post, Judge Block stated, "I think she has to testify. Her point is that this was an A-OK thing to do." Excuse me. She has to explain. The congresswoman initially tried to have the case dismissed, saying that Hikind lacks standing to bring the action. However, in 2018, Judge Naomi Race Buchwald stated that President Trump was violating the Constitution by blocking people online. Twitter was described as a designated public forum on which the president could not block people. This definition is being upheld in court as well for Ocasio-Cortez. If Twitter is ruled again to be a designated public forum, this might mean that the company would have to reinstate banned accounts under First Amendment principles. Well, I don't know about all that. The argument that Twitter has is they are under no obligation because of the First Amendment to host your speech. It's a publisher argument. If they were a platform, they'd be saying, you can say whatever you want. We can't stop you. So I'll give you a real world example. If there's a park, a privately owned space that's open to the public, you're allowed to stand there and preach, and they can't remove you based on the subject of your speech, even if it's private. This was a big fight back during Occupy Wall Street. Twitter is claiming, and Facebook and YouTube, that they're publishers and platforms, whenever it's convenient. Now, legally, there's no real distinction. Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act protects any online service, which is really strange because I'm trying to get clarification. I asked then, could the New York Times not be sued? You have to sue the individual reporter, and it appears that's the case. Even though the New York Times chooses who appears on the front page, there's no distinction. Perhaps there needs to be. So here's what ends up happening. As a platform, this service would just be giving you a place to stand and not telling you what you can or can't say. As a publisher, they are choosing just like a newspaper, right? I'm just trying to clarify the point. I don't know if the ruling against Cortez would change that, but I do think it needs to be changed. Outside of whatever that argument is, it's time for a change. Pick one. Let's set the legal distinction between a publisher and a platform. The New York Times is liable if they choose to publish something. Why not Facebook? Why is Facebook protected? In reality, I think the New York Times might actually be protected too. This can't function. Now, Will Chamberlain over at Human Events, I could be getting his position wrong, so I'll just preface this. I could be wrong. But he argued overturning Times v. Sullivan, which basically created, my understanding is that it created a harder standard for public figures. So here's the thing. In the Covington case, these kids were standing around doing nothing. They were not public figures. They were just kids. The argument against them was that they became public figures. This precedent is dangerous because it means anyone at any time can become a public figure if someone else posts a video of you on the internet. Okay, well, we need some guidelines here, man. Let me just stress, whatever is going on, Ocasio-Cortez should probably testify, but more importantly, the law needs to be updated. Whatever your argument is, should she block? Look, a lot of conservatives have said the ruling was bad and that it was a bad ruling against Trump and it's a bad ruling against Cortez. Okay, great. Let's update the laws. The Computer Fraud and Abuse Act is archaic and makes no sense. Section 230 is archaic and make no sense. And for the time being, Ocasio-Cortez is refusing to abide by the law. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has to. Let's get some consistency, please. Listen, Cortez should be allowed to block people, and so should Trump. Okay, fine, whatever. If the courts want to rule they can't, the situation is so complicated because I would have to agree. If Trump can't block people, we've got a serious problem. They're arguing there is an extremely important function of these social media platforms in public discourse, but they're ignoring the fact that they can just remove whoever they want. The analogy I often give, imagine there's a big airplane hangar where Trump likes to have his rallies, and Ocasio-Cortez shows up and they say, you can't come in to hear the president. But that's not fair. That's the president. Now listen, there are instances where people are blocked, right? Space is an issue. There's only so much space in the building. We're not going to let you in. But imagine the building is capable of holding everybody, and they hold their hand out and block you, but let only Trump supporters in. We can't function that way. People need to know what he's saying. That's the world we're creating right now. So listen, whatever the ruling ends up, I don't think it matters, okay? I do think there's a bit of a catharsis. There's an emotional release in seeing a judge tell her she needs to testify, seeing some reciprocity. Well, I shouldn't say reciprocity, but some standards being upheld. If they're going to go after Trump, go after Cortez too. But in the end, it's not the point. The point is that social media is where we discuss politics. And that's why they can't block people. Because Cortez and Trump talk about policy and plans. And people are allowed to interact with that. It's important for democracy. Why then does Twitter have the right to supersede the politician? Think about it. Trump can't block you, so Twitter can intervene on his behalf and block you? That makes no sense. If the courts believe people need access to Trump's public forum, then why should a private company kick you out? So you know what? I'll wrap up by saying double standard. Ocasio-Cortez, what do you expect? Okay? This is what the left has done. They've advocated for these things, and now you have to play by the same rules as everybody else. We'll see what happens. I think it'll be hilarious to see her in court. But for the time being, I somehow doubt anything will happen. And she's going to continue to be in violation of the law. I really doubt there will even be any penalties against her for it. Stick around. Next segment will be tomorrow at 10 a.m. Podcast 6:30 p.m. I'll see you all next time.